Well, happy New Year's Eve. Gone live, so bear with me. And he wrote it out on a plate. I don't know if you can see. See if I can get the right angle. Oh, this is terrible. Here we go. The numbers 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and challenged us to figure out this riddle. And I'll tell you what it is at the end of the video, and you'll be a little bit surprised. It ties into our new year. But I really wanted to share for a minute about a little bit of a story of my background and how that ties to how I'm launching into the new year and the things that I hope to share and challenge you with. And that is that my, although that we're celebrating the exciting aspect of it being a new year, 2 days ago was the anniversary of my dad's passing. And that was in 2009. Sadly, he died just a few days after Christmas, December 29th. In 2009, and he was one of my best friends. His life was cut short by a stroke. He was 56 years old. It was very sudden, and I won't go into those details because that's not what I want to share today. What I want to share is some of the things about his life that I have hung on to, the aspects of legacy, I guess, that he's passed down to me, and the things that I value. And one of those things is the fact that my dad taught me to hunt. I might not look like it, but I am a big game hunter, and I grew up big game hunting with my dad in northern British Columbia, Canada, where I grew up. And so that included moose and elk on a regular basis. Every year, we would get 1 or 2 to fill our deep freezes with food. And I mean, it was full bore in the family that I grew up. We not only hunted, but we even butchered those animals on our kitchen dining table in the fall and processed the meat as a family. And so that's some other crazy stories I can share another time. But suffice it to say, my dad taught me how to hunt. Now, what's an interesting fact is my dad did not grow up as a hunter. His dad was a fisherman. He was a highliner on the west coast of Canada. And so my grandfather was a fisherman, but my dad never, almost to my knowledge, touched a fishing rod in my life. So he gravitated to hunting, and that's what he did my whole life. Now, conversely, I married a man. My husband is not a hunter. He's interested in maybe taking to that down the road, but he is an avid fisherman. He loves particularly fly fishing. And he has been teaching our boys to do that as well. And so we've got a 10-year-old budding fly fisherman, young man, and another 5-year-old that's pretty excited about that prospect too. But I say all this because there is a connection to me between this skill and the concept of hunting and fishing with just there's an interesting verse in the Bible I found years ago. Deuteronomy 28:8, and it says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He." Pardon me. Let me start again. Deuteronomy 8:18. I get that I'm mixed up sometimes, but remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish the covenant that He swore to your forefathers, as it is to this day. And so there's this phrase, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth." Well, what is the power to get wealth? And I began to ponder that years and years and years ago because I had lived pretty broke for years. I wanted to make an impact in the world and had chosen to do work that connected to ministry or purpose, and so I had some different jobs that were really missional focused. They were people focused, and I loved what I did, but I was not making very much money in that department. And the bigger the dreams I had, the more I realized I was going to need money to do what I wanted to do and make the impact that I needed to make. And so I kind of got tired of being broke, and I wanted to make a bigger impact. And as I began to kind of look into more and more of this phrase kept coming back to me. And I got stuck on the idea of the power to get wealth, when I remembered there's a Chinese proverb that says, teach a man to fish, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. You probably know this. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I pondered this concept, and I'm like, I don't know how to fish, but I do know how to hunt. My dad taught me how to hunt. And I know that if things became dire, hunting would always be a way that we could provide for our family. I couldn't teach anyone to fish, and I don't know how to fish probably to save my life right now. I think I could figure it out, but definitely not to the degree that I know how to hunt. And so what does it mean to learn a skill like this? And why does God take the time to write? Why is this written in the Bible? Because for me, as I began to pursue getting out of poverty, stop being broke, I wanted to find out what the Bible had to say about money. I'm an avid Christian, strong believer, and have been for years, and have pursued that tenaciously. And so I didn't want to know what any Christian said about money or God and money, but I wanted to find and dig into it myself, what the Bible had to say about money. And this was one of those things. And so as I dug into what this concept was, I just kept coming back to this idea of the power to get wealth, the power to fish, the power to hunt. And what I realized was God is not in the fish giving business. That's not what he's in. Or the money giving business, we could say, but he is in the power giving business. It doesn't say that he gives us money, but he gives us the power to get wealth. He doesn't just give things to us, because the truth is, a lot of times when things come really easy to us, they also leave really easy. You've probably heard statistics of winners of the lottery. People that win the lottery, within 5 years, almost without fail, they're back to the same place they were, if not in a worse situation than when they were before. Easy come, easy go. But when you have to work for something and strive, there is a gift in that working that is powerful and deep. And so one of the great gifts my dad gave to me was teaching me how to hunt. And it was more than that. It was the relationship. Some of my favorite times of my life were in the mountains with my dad, camping, four-wheeling. He was teaching me survival skills. He was teaching me just how to orient myself and travel in the backcountry. And these were all skills that I carried on for years. I worked as a wilderness guide and an outdoor educator, and worked for both tourism and outdoor education programs and wilderness therapy programs. But I say this because I would just want to come back to that key. The Bible talks about the power to get wealth. And so when I decided to begin to pursue what did it mean to get the power to get wealth, and approaching it from the way the Bible spoke about it, and looking at business, looking at finances, looking and digging into it, my life began to change. And I began to have many more opportunities. Resources began to flow through my hands much more easier, because I also learned how to become much more of a giver, much more extravagant in giving and sacrificial giving. And so I don't think it's, for wealth for me is not about how much money I have, but it's about what we can give away. And my husband and I, from the beginning of our marriage, have talked about what it would be to be most Christians only think of money and God and tithing, and so you got to give God 10%, and wherever you land in that discussion doesn't matter. But for me and my husband, we decided, man, we don't want to have anything to do with the tithe. We want to live on a reverse tithe. That means we want to live on 10% and give God 90%. What would that look like in our lives? What would it look like to give millions away, or hundreds of millions of dollars away, or $1 billion one day? Like, how would our lives, how amazing could our lives be to be able to be someone trusted to do that and impact the world that way? And so these are some of the things that I've pondered. These are some of the things that excite me. These are some of the things that I'm pursuing, that my husband and I are pursuing, and why we're in business, why I'm showing up in this place to encourage and challenge you in these ways. And so here it is. It's New Year's Eve, and I want to encourage you as you look ahead, what is it that you want to do this year? What change do you want to do? You know, for most of us, our lives would be very different if we had a greater level of or more power in a certain area. If we had the power to get relationships, the power to get health, the power to get wealth. These are all things that I have wrestled with and I'm keen on and I'm passionate about. And, you know, my husband showed up with this number today and the mystery of what does 123 mean? Well, he said, that's today's date. It's 12/31/23. And you know, there's a lot of different ways that God can speak, I've found through the years. And one of the ways he speaks is through numbers. And right away, what stood out to me was like, man, this is going back to basics. 1, 2, 3 is so basic, so simple. And it's going back to the beginning and starting fresh. Sometimes you know a lot and in fact, your head's, you have so much knowledge. But it's only the knowledge that you apply in your life that is life-changing. And so I can't tell you how many times in my life I have gone back and realized, like, I just want to read a new book. I want to watch something new. I want to both be entertained and assimilate new and more information and wisdom and knowledge and understanding. But man, the conviction to go back and just reread the 10 best books I've ever read, or rewatch 10 of the best movies or documentaries, or listen to the 10 best podcasts I've ever heard. What would it be if I went back to that and just ruminated on that? And so this year, one of the things that I have just been feeling is this thing of going back to basics. I've been really convicted about things like just sleep and how I need more sleep to live optimally and to flourish and thrive. And so I've been really working on my circadian rhythm the last couple months, and best practices and principles that help with sleep. Things that I thought I was pretty good with sleep compared to a lot of people, but man, I've learned a lot that I didn't know of things that have been undermining my sleep. And so I've been working on these things. I have a habit tracker that I've been regularly logging with the intention of growing in that area. And it seems so basic to go back to sleep and teaching myself how to sleep again and how to build habits, healthy sleep habits. But John, I think I've said this on another video recently, but Coach John Wooden was one of the greatest basketball coaches in history for UCLA, and I don't know how many years, won more championships than anyone. And one of the things he was known for was when a player arrived on his team, he went back to the basics, and he started by teaching his team, the players on his team, how to tie their shoes. And it was kind of a running joke, and most of those players showed up and thought it was foolish for somebody to teach them how to tie their shoes. But he did that because he knew that most of them didn't know how to even put their socks on. And if your socks are bunched up, they can cause blisters on the court. And when you get blisters on the court, you got to sit on the bench. And when you're on the bench, you lose game time. And so it's a trickle-down effect from just this one practical skill. Learning to tie your shoes, putting your shoes on, pulling up your socks correctly is a game changer. And so I'm just at this place that I'm working on some of the real basics, but it's with the intention of going big and going far. And so I invite you along for that. When it comes to the power to get wealth, that's some of the stuff that we're going to dig into. What is it? How do you get it? How do you apply these things? What are the strategies of entrepreneurship? Why would you be an entrepreneur? When do you, sorry, the light is a little crazy right now. But the, those are some of the skills that I want to hone in on, what it takes to get the power to get wealth and how your life has changed, and what are biblical principles for success? What are biblical principles for building wealth and creating wealth? Is that something that we can do? Is that, or are Christians supposed to be living in poverty? Is poverty like holiness? And so, those are things that I've grappled with through the years, and I I'm going to grapple with again and share some of the conclusions I've come to. And I hope you'll join me for that journey. And I hope you'll walk away because, I know I have the power to get wealth. We are seeing it play out in our lives. Just a little alerts coming up. We have the power to get wealth. Now, it might not be as much power as others. There's always things to learn, and we're growing in that area. But we can at least share. I can share what we've learned so far, and it can make a difference wherever you're at in your life. It doesn't take but one or two things that can absolutely transform your life, and one or two people at the right time sharing that information or their story that can bring change. And so, I guess I'll just leave you with these thoughts that, it's the power to get something is something that, if you think of a good parent, incrementally, they are dosing out responsibility and power to the children as they age and mature. We recently gave my 5-year-old the power to have his own pocket knife and to cut with a pocket knife. And there's rules and there's boundaries and things that keep that safe. A lot of people, that would shock them, but we have done that with our other son, and that's a vital, valuable skill that we're cultivating. We wouldn't give him the keys to our car at the age of 5 or our other son at age 10. But as they're aging, we're giving them the power to do different things. Our children have the power to get breakfast on their own in the morning, and they're going to have more responsibility and more power as they grow older. And so a good parent does that. And I think God, as a good father, wants us to grow in power and responsibility in every area of our life. And so, wherever you're at, though, just remember that with great power comes great responsibility, and with great responsibility comes great power. And so it's kind of works hand in glove, and but there is something I didn't grow up learning. I didn't know there's a game of money. There's a game of business. And so learning the language of business, learning the language of money, and how to play that game freed me to think different and to begin to live different. And it became really exciting to me. And I have enjoyed, in many ways, the game of business, the game of building wealth and giving wealth away. And I hope to share many of those stories and encourage you and challenge you in the days ahead. So I hope you'll join. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't yet, or check back again soon. And I wish you the best. I hope it's a great new year for you. And I really encourage you that in whatever you're doing, that you might start the year not from some lofty place, but going back to basics so that you can go farther than you ever have before. With that, I hope to see you next time.